Good morning from somewhere in Cork County, Ireland. We have just left our B&B in Cork City and we're heading to the little town of Kinsale. It's another seaside town. We understand it has a really cool star-shaped fort and just is a really cute town. That is the coolest bar table we've ever seen. Made out of a real boat. And you can still see inside the boat and everything, Mark. So what do you do at 10:30 in the morning when it's pouring out rain and you're waiting for an 11:15 tour? You go to the pub, of course. Sláinte. There's part of the old town wall up there. You can see how narrow the streets are here, and they are not one-way streets. That's why you want a small car. We're at a restaurant in Kinsale called Fishy Fishy. It's recommended by Rick Steves in his book, and it's become very well known all over Ireland. The owner and the head chef here has become so famous that he now has a cooking show on Irish TV. So I am a landlubber myself. I don't eat seafood, so this trip is for Mark. I wanted him to experience Fishy Fishy and get some really, really good seafood here while we were in Kinsale. Let's put something in the middle.
Sweet potato chips.
And
spinach orzo.
I got the sirloin steak with pepper sauce, onion rings, chips, and veg. I just wanted to update you on what we did in Kinsale. We did the 1.5 hour walking tour. It was the one that was recommended to us in the Rick Steves book, not to us, but by Rick Steves. I just wanted to let you know it's a very, very good tour. It's only $7 a person, but it's very heavy on talk and history. There's not a lot of sights per se, so just know that going in. You don't walk through much of the city. The good part of that is that you don't go up and down hills, so if you have trouble with that, you won't have to worry about it. The other thing I would say is don't take your kids. There was one little boy on the tour. I'd say he was about 6 or 7. He had it by the end. He was really good, but it's really not for kids, and even up to teenagers, unless they're super interested in history, it's not something that they're going to enjoy. The other thing I wanted to tell you is that we did find Fishy Fishy. We did get in. We had our lunch. I thought it was excellent. Mark thought his was excellent. Is it the best restaurant in Ireland? I don't know. It was very good, and it's upscale, but in a casual way. It's not pub food, but it's not, you know, fine dining either. So my steak was excellent, which is unusual in a seafood restaurant. A lot of times you don't know what you're going to get. So I was very pleased with the steak, very pleased with all of the food. Now we've driven out of the town, up along probably the highest point here in this seaport, and it's where there's an old fort that we're going to go tour, and I'll show you both the fort and some of the scenes looking back at Kinsale. It's raining off and on pretty bad, so I may have to do some of it with my cell phone, but let us show you what it looks like. So we're up at Charles Fort, looking back over at Kinsale. It's really pretty up here. I bet you on a sunny day it's an absolutely gorgeous view. So this is Charles Fort. It and one other fort were built at the mouth of the bay, I guess. What would you call it, Mark? That they're guarding, a bay? And they were built to guard the bay coming in to Kinsale. It was a very strategic point.
Called the edge of the world.
Yeah, they literally thought it was the edge of the world before Christopher Columbus did his sailing. They thought that this point, and the one point just above us, called the Head, they really thought it was the farthest point that of land that they could go. So, of course, now we know better, but it was apparently a piece of land, an entry into Ireland that everybody wanted, and so they built this fort here to guard entry into it. Very cool. This is beautiful out here. Wow. I'm such a nerd. I love stuff like this. I think this umbrella is going to be useless. Wow, look how much of it's left. That's cool. Yeah.
There we go. You can actually use the switch hands back and forth.
I wish we'd had a better day to see this, but it's still pretty cool. There's even gutters. This was a big fort.
Yep. Not like Monroe. This is a substantial place. A lot of troops must have been garrisoned here.
Yeah. Really, really big. They said it was it was Britain's biggest fort for quite some time.
I can believe it. It's this big.
Charles Fort was built in 1682. It was actually built as a star-shaped fortress to repel cannon fire, and it was really the English that built it, and they were very much concerned about the fact that Louis XIV was kind of upping gear there and was trying to spread his empire a little bit more, and he was looking towards England and the north of Europe as well. So very much they were concerned about Louis XIV, but maybe a few other characters as well at the time. So this is the late 1600s and Charles Fort is being constructed. It takes 4 years to build, and that is with the aid of quite a lot of Irish labourers. So there's been very much Irish people working under, I suppose, the overseers, which were going to be the English military. So I suppose it worked very fast. If there is a gun, someone has a gun who's in charge, exactly. But they would have gotten paid for the amount of work that they did as well. And under that premise then, if you got more work done, you got paid more. So wow. It was a very fast build if you think about it. The site itself is 12 acres in size, and the building, the rooms, and I suppose the size of the walls outside. The walls are 14 meters deep. They're filled with soil and rock that is quarried from just a quarry up the road from us. Some of the rock actually is from a castle that was on site here called Ringcurran or Barrio Castle. And that castle was on site for hundreds of years beforehand and was demolished halfway through the 16th century. So they just used the rock from that. So I do kind of like to think that there's a little bit of castle here too, in the walls, which is quite wonderful. We're now at the lower part of the fortress where the older buildings are. This is the Gunpowder Magazine. It would have been added in the late 1600s. So whilst the whole place is being built, you have this Gunpowder Magazine being built here as well. So the lowest buildings that are near the seaward wall, those are the very first. Now the reason for that is defences. If you've got, during more turbulent times, the buildings have to be near the seaward wall where there's going to be less chance of them being hit. Everything's going to be hit on the hill, so nothing should be built up there. As it gets more peaceful, the buildings are built up on the hill. And that's exactly what's happened here. And as it got more peaceful, it became less used as a fort and more used as a training facility. So the English army or military would have used it for the Crimean War and the Boer War and even World War I, all the way up until 1921. So it was in constant use. It was used as a barracks, but it was very much during wartime an incredibly important facility here. And actually, Kinsale was a very important area for the army. So when you're talking about the 1600s, it was actually a base, a naval base here. Now there was another star fort right across the way from us called James Fort. So you might have spotted that as a ruin up on the hill across the water from us. Have you seen them? Yeah, so there is one just over there. It's in a place called Castle Park. And James Fort was built in 1602, straight after the Battle of Kinsale. Have you heard of the Battle of Kinsale? So the Battle of Kinsale, some of you have and some of you hadn't. So the Battle of Kinsale occurred basically with 25 Spanish ships, and they landed here in Kinsale and they tried to take Kinsale really from the English. Now it was it was part of a rebellion with the Irish chieftains. So it was the O'Neills and O'Donnells, the two Hughes from Ulster. And it was the last kind of chieftains in Ireland that were actually looking to rebel against England at that stage.
So this dated from when, did she say?
The whole building from the 1600s is when they started it.
Must have been quite impressive. I wonder what this little suction thing was for. Alright. I'm gonna go up on the wall. There's my umbrella. It's super windy up here. Wow, this has 3 little alcoves. They're not stoves because there's no way for them to vent, so I don't think they would be stoves. This one even has part of the old grate, the old metal grate left. This was definitely 3 stories.